Hello YouTube, Dave here again. So today I'm going to be doing my combat system demonstration for the Dragon Age role-playing game. So last week I made a couple of characters, a warrior and a mage, and today I'm going to have them fight a pair of Genlocks, which are one of like the sort of the fodder troops for the Darkspawn in the Dragon Age role-playing game. So the purpose of this video is basically to demonstrate how the combat system works with the 3d6 system, and hope that there will be some stunts which are generated. So just to go over some of these things really quickly, the Dragon Age system or role-playing game uses the Age system developed by Green Ronin, and there's other systems, other versions of this game out there as well, including I think it's just called Fantasy Age, and I think there's a couple other ones that they use this sort of thing with. I'm just going to push this back just a little bit. Just try to get a little bit more stuff on screen here. So basically what it is it's a 3d6 system, and you use d6s for literally everything. There's no other dice type that is used in the game at all, just the up to 3d6. As you can see here, I've got 3d6, and one of them is a different color. This red die is referred to in this system as the dragon die. Now, other versions of the Age system probably refer to it as something else. But the way that this works is when I'm making any sort of test or attack roll or spell casting roll, if I roll doubles on any of these three dice, it doesn't have to include the dragon dice, just any of the three dice, I generate stunt points. And the number of points that are generated are equal to whatever's on the dragon die, which is the other colored one. So let's just say, for example, this is what I rolled. So I had doubles, and I had one on the dragon dice. It gives me one stunt point that I can use. Now, because I have the first two box sets, I actually have some pretty handy quick reference cards for combat, role-playing, exploration, as well as spell casting, like spell stunts, stuff like that. So for example, if I had a single stun point, then what I could do is, well, let's just change that just a little bit for combat. So let's just say that I had two, because that gives me a lot more options than number one. So let's just say I had two stun points, I made a weapon attack, so I could, for example, do the Pierce Armor stunt, which costs 2 points, and it just says, you know, you find a chink in your enemy's armor, his armor rating is halved, rounded down, versus the attack. Now, if I had, like, for example, 4 stun points, you can use all the stun points that you generate at the time that you generate them. They don't carry over, so if you don't use them, then they're just simply gone. So let's just say I actually had 4 stun points, so in addition to Pierce Armor, I could also add on, say, Mighty Blow, which does an extra 1d6 damage to the attack. Or I could Taunt, which forces them to make a willpower self-discipline check against my communication deception ability, and if I win they get a negative. So there's a lot of different things that you can do, some really, really cool stunts. Like I said, hopefully we'll generate some of these during the course of the combat. As well, spellcasting stunts, they have similar things that you can use as well. So for example, if I had 2 points, I could do like a Mighty Spell. If it does damage, the one target of the spell of your choice takes an extra d6, so if there were 2 targets being hit with the same spell, I could spend a stun point to have one of them deal an extra d6. I could do Skillful Casting, which is to reduce the mana cost of the spell by 1. Which can reduce it to a minimum of 0. So if I do really well, or if I choose one that only has a casting mana cost of, say, 2, or even just 1, then it can reduce. And you can choose the same stunt multiple times. So, for example, if I had 4 points, I could do Skillful Casting twice to reduce the mana cost by 2. So you can double up on these. I don't think any of them specify that you can't. It's nice to spread them out to do different things, but there are lots of things that you can potentially do with these as well. And anyway, so with that in mind, I've got my characters here. I am using a grid for the purposes of this video, and the way that it works is each square represents 2 yards for like movement purposes. So for example, I have a speed, my Elven Mage has a speed of 13. So you basically, for every 2 that I use at a speed is 1 square. So I can move up to 6 squares, and unfortunately that extra yard is just not used. It's one of the downsides of using a grid sort of system, but it works for the purposes of this video. So for example, my warrior can move just an even 5 because he has a speed of 10. I don't have to worry about it. And I've got the initiative stuff done up here. I use marker so it stands out a little bit thicker, a little bit easier to read on the screen. So I have the Genlock's Pertinent Stats printed out here. So they have like Communication 0, Constitution 2, Cunning, Dexterity of 1, Magic, Perception of 2, Strength of 3, and a Willpower of 2. They have a speed of 7, 22 health, their defense is 11 or 13 if they're using a shield, and they have an armor rating of 5. Their attacks are Battle Axe at plus 5 for 2d6 plus 3 on a hit, or Throwing Axe at plus 5 for 1d6 plus 5 on a hit there as well. Their favorite stunts are Knock, Prone, and Mighty Blow if they generate stun points, and they have magic resistance, so any test that they make to try to overcome the effects of a spell or magical attack, they get a +2 bonus on their rolls for that. So defense is how difficult you are to hit, so that's equivalent to armor class in Dungeons and Dragons. So having a defense of 11 or 13 with the shield means if they're using a shield, the total combined result of my attack rolls, be it spell attacks or weapon attacks, need to be 13 or greater. Armor rating works as sort of a damage reduction system, so they would basically reduce any damage that is taken by 5 in the case of the Genlocks. Now my mage character has the spell Rock Armor, which if I have him cast it, gives him an armor rating equal to his magic stat, which is 3, so he would reduce everything by 3, and my warrior has an armor rating of 4, so he would be reducing everything by 4. So the combat is sort of set up as it is. The spaces are basically where they are. The only thing that I'm probably going to do is, because my characters would be traveling through actually, no, we'll just go right straight through it, and we'll essentially kind of go over the combat system as we go. So with combat, there are a certain number of steps that you go through. You have your actions that you can do. There's your standard actions, major actions, and minor actions are the 2 that they have. So something like movement, for example, would be considered a minor action. You could also take the aim action as a minor action, which gives you a +1 bonus to attacks on your weapon attacks, or if you have the archery focus, which my warrior does, it actually gives him +2 on any sort of bow attack that he makes, which is pretty good. The thing is that you can't move, and you have like your major actions being like making attack rolls, spell rolls, and like spell attacks, and you can try to heal someone, which takes a major action as well. So for the purpose of this video, it's going to be pretty simple. The actions that we take is going to be mostly movement, attacks, and then maybe something like the aim action. So without further ado, let's just get right to it. So characters run across a pair of Genlocks. So the first thing I want to do is roll initiative for all of the combatants. So I'm going to roll the Genlocks as a single initiative because it's just easier that way, which is what they recommend doing anyways in this game, is that like monsters all go at the same time. So I'm going to start with a Loreth, which is my magic user. I'm just going to aim this down just a little bit because I don't really need to show the screen there or anything. Let's just, whoop. There we go. All right. Okay, let's just adjust these down just a little bit, just again to make everything kind of fit on camera. All right, so Loreth, so initiative is a dexterity check, or dexterity test, I guess you could call it. So I roll 3d6 and I add my dexterity, and the higher initiative goes first. So, all right, now I don't think there's, I don't think for combat there is, or I don't think for initiative you generate stats for that, although, sorry, yeah, actually, technically, you can do a stunt called Seize the Initiative, which your attack changes the tempo of battle, so that's on an attack roll. I don't think initiative generates stunt points, in general. So I'm not going to worry about that, but there would have been an example where I would have actually gotten 3 stun points. However, we're not going to worry about that. So dexterity is 1, so 6, and 6 is 12. So Loreth has an initiative of 13 and 25 hit points. Up next, we're going to do Durin, who is our warrior. He is our Avar Hillsman warrior, and he's got a dexterity of 1 as well. Gee, okay, two rolls in a row where I, roll doubles, and I'm not going to get any stunts off of this one. But anyway, so that is 12, 15, so he goes on 16, which watch me not generate any stun points throughout the rest of the fight. And the Genlocks go on 10, or sorry, not 10, 9, and their dexterity is +1. So yeah, they go on 10 total. All right. So, first round of combat. So I've got Durin, who actually does have a bow as a weapon. So he is going to take the aim action. So, like I said, I've got my minor and major actions here. So all at attack, which allows me to actually hit and do an extra +1 damage. But I suffer a -1 to my defense if I do that. So I don't really want to do that for the first thing. I could charge, move up to half my speed in yards, and then make a melee attack. And again, I get minor actions as well. You take heal, defend, melee attack, range attack, run. So he's going to stay actually where he is. He's got his bow. He'll have his bow drawn while he's walking, and we'll just switch to his longsword probably after that. And I did make a mistake. I haven't corrected it here, but when I wrote out his abilities, his damage and stuff, I put the great axe or the two-handed axe damage where the longsword should be. So those numbers should be reversed. Anyway, so he's going to use his bow. He's going to take the minor action to aim. And he will use his major action to make an attack. So because he has the archery talent, he gets +2 on his attack roll. And with the bow, it is a dexterity check. So I'm rolling 3d6 +3 total. 1 for his dexterity and an extra +2 for having the aim feature. So, Genlocks, our defense is currently 13 because they have their shields. So, alright, we definitely hit, looks like. So we've got 11, so that is, that's 15 on the dice, so that's actually 18 total that I hit with. Now the longbow does 1d6 +5, and the Genlocks have an absorb or an armor rating of 5, so they're reducing their armor, whatever they get hit by when it comes to attacks, by 5, unless it has what's called, I think it's called piercing damage. I can't remember the exact name for it now, but there's a type of damage that bypasses armor, and this isn't one of them. So my bow does 1d6 +5. They reduce it by 5, so he's just gonna, whatever the dice roll is, will be the amount of damage that he takes. And I'll say he attacks the bigger one there. Oh, that's a pretty big hit. So that one takes 6 damage, is down to 16, and that was his action. So now we go to Loreth's turn. So he's our mage, he's our magic user. So he is going to attempt to cast rock armor on himself and give himself an armor rating of 3. Now, I had mentioned magical mishaps in the video where I made the mage, and I kind of screwed a couple things up. I think I corrected in the video, but essentially any spell that doesn't have any sort of prerequisite, like requiring another spell in order to have it, you can never run the risk of having a mishap. They're considered basically safe spells or starter spells, so I never have to worry about that. But if I had a spell that required another spell, like for example Cone of Cold, I think I would need Cold Blast, or whatever the name of it is there. So if I roll my Cone of Cold and I fail the spellcasting test roll and I get a 1 on the dragon die, then you suffer the potential for magical mishap. Anyway, so I don't have to worry about that with any of these because none of these starting spells have any sort of prerequisites. But I still have to get I still have to be able to cast a spell. So I have to roll a magic test, and the target number is 10. So it's the same as everything else. I roll a 3d6, and then I add my magic stat, and I need to get that number or greater. And if I do, I'm just going to be spending 3 mana on it, which is the minimum. So it'll bring me down to 15 mana points, which I'm not going to do in marker. I should have a pencil here somewhere. Okay, nope, that doesn't have any lead in it. So I'm just going to put down his mana points here, which is 18. So I'll just keep track of it there, because like I said, I don't want to put marker on the actual character sheet. So he gets his magic stat is 3, so I get +3 to this. So the odds are pretty good that I'm going to end up successfully casting this spell. And oh, excellent! So we actually generated some stunts. I got a pair there, and again, the dragon die doesn't actually have to be involved in the pair at all, but it just so happens that every time I've rolled doubles, the dragon die was one of them. So I definitely, that's like a 19 on a target number 10. So I do get 5 spell points, or spell stunt points that I can use. What we have here is, yeah, I think what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to lose a point, which I'm fine with, but I think I'm going to do fast casting. So I have 5 stunt points, this costs 4, and what fast casting does is after you resolve this spell, you can immediately cast another spell. The second spell must have a casting time of a major or minor action. If you roll doubles on this casting roll, you do not get any more stunt points. So I can't double down on the stunt points, but I'm going to use, so I did the mana, the rock armor, so that now gives me 15 mana points. And Larethna has an armor rating of 3 for any attacks that he gets cast on him. And I'm actually going to go right on to Arcane Bolt, because this would be a great way to... Now, I still have a stunt point, actually, so... and I think I have until the end of my turn to actually use it. So, I'm going to actually make this... I'm going to use... and I don't... I don't know. I'm not going to pronounce that correctly, so I'm not even going to try, but it says increase the spell power of your stunt by 1 per stunt point spent. So I'm going to use that as well for this one, which means that basically when they make their defense, or their magic, their willpower test, I think is what they have to make, it essentially makes the target number for them 1 higher. Alright, so Arcane Bolt also has an acrobatics test they have to do. So they have a target number of 10 again. And, 5, 6, 7. Magic is 3, so that just succeeds. That was really close, but I did just succeed, thankfully. So I'm going to cast the Arcane Bolt on the same one. They're going to make an acrobatics test to basically reduce the damage. So if they succeed, then they take only 1d6 instead of 2d6. So, and okay, I forgot to check the what the dragon die roll. I think the dragon die was 5. I want to say for the spell. I think it was 1 for the other 2. So anyway, the spell does 2d6 plus the dragon die when you roll to cast, or 1d6 if they save. So I'll do their acrobatics test. Like I said, I'm pretty sure it was 5 on the dragon die itself, and go from there. So their acrobatics test, which is dexterity. My target number is normally 13 for my spell power, but I increased it by 1 to make it 14. But there's 14 there on the dice. They get +1 normally and +2 for being resistant to magic. So I'm only doing 1d6 damage. And the worst part is that it isn't, it doesn't bypass armor. So they still get to reduce this by 5. So unfortunately it doesn't do anything, because I did 5, the armor reduces by 5. But anyway, that was his turn, which was still a pretty decent turn overall. The Arcane Bolt cost 2, so I'm down to 13 mana points. And we're going to go to our Gunlocks now. So they have a speed of 7, so I can move 3 squares right now, with each square being 2 yards, the way that this game works. So they're going to essentially do a minor action of move, and then probably a major action of charge. So we'll go with the injured one first. So he goes 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to do the charge, which you only move up to half your speed, actually. So instead, I'm going to have him use his throwing axe. And this one will do basically the same thing. So he'll move up 1, 2, 3, and use his throwing axe. For anyone who's wondering, a round in this game is 15 seconds long. So they're both going to throw their hand axes, and the range should be close enough. I'm not going to worry too much about that. So making their attack rolls. So first against Durin. Oh. And that is definitely going to hit. So his defense is 13, which isn't terrible. Although actually right now it's only 11 because he doesn't have a shield up. He was using his bow. So that definitely hits. The damage on the throwing axe is 1d6 plus 5, but I subtract 4. Ooh, so that's 11, so that's going to be 7 damage total. So Durin goes from 35 down to 28. And that was the first one. The second one's going to throw his axe, the same one, Durin as well. However, 5, that is 10. Or sorry, that's 9, plus 5, so 14. So that still hits, unfortunately, for another d6 plus 5. So that is going to be another 5 because I subtract 4 to begin with. So he's down to 23. So that was the end of the first round, and with all the explanations out of the way, this should go a little bit faster. So we're going to go straight to Durin, who is going to charge. He'll move and charge if he needs to, because his speed is, so he can move up 5 squares actually, so he will charge up there. So he gets +1 to his attack roll. And I'm attacking, so at this point I'm just going to drop the bow. I'm actually going to go with the two-handed axe, just because you have to ready like the shield and everything. So, alright, whoops, didn't mean to knock him over there. So we've got 7, 8, we have 9 for his charge, and his strength is +3, so that brings up to 12, which misses actually, crud, because they have a defense of 13, so that unfortunately is going to be a miss. So at this point, we're going to have, it's now going to be the Wrath's turn, so he can move up to 6 squares right now. So he's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, he's going to go back there, and I'm actually going to use heal. I'm going to do for 2 points. So it's going to bring him down to 11. I have to make spell casting check. Target number is 10. Nope. And, he generates stunts again. So 3 stunt points. He definitely succeeds. So let's go back to our magic ones here. That gives us 3. Alright, so we're going to reduce the mana cost by 1. And I think that's pretty much all that we're going to... Actually, you know what? I'm going to use all 3 points for a mana shield. So that gives me +2 defense until the start of the beginning of my next turn. So that brings his defense up to 13 as well. But he also succeeds, so I get to do 2d6 health back to Durin. And so he gets 6 back, so I'm at 29. Just try to keep him in the fight. And then we're going to have our Genlocks go. So the first one is going to, he's going to do an all-out attack, I think, as an action. So all-out attack, if you hit, I do +1 damage, but whether or not the attack hits or misses, he still loses -1 to his defense. So that is definitely going to hit. That is 12 there, +5, so yeah. However, they're doing their, so they would have drawn their battle axe. Okay. Okay, yeah, so the minor action, that's what I was trying to look for. So the ready action was what they would use for their minor. So they basically pull out their other weapon and use the all-out attack as their major. So 2d6 +4, so that is 6 +4 is 10, but I have an armor rating of 4, so I only take 6. So I'm back down to 23, and then we've got our other Genlock is going to move up and do the same. I guess he's right there. Use ready action to pull out his battle axe, and we've got 3. So they actually get stunt. He gets stunt points, but I think that's going to miss actually. So that's only 6, 7, 8 plus. That's 13. No, that hits. That just hits Durin's armor or defense. So manages to hit and gets a 3 stun points. So they are going to use for 3. So for 3 points, I think I'm just going to do the. Yeah, I think I'm just going to do the Mighty Blow, which does an extra 1d6 because it is one of their favored stunts. So it's going to be 3d6 plus 3 for the attack, because I didn't actually say he was doing all the attack, so we'll not worry about that. So that is 10, 12, 12, 15, so he's going to take 11 and go down to 12. So Durin's not doing so well in this fight. Alright, new round, Durin's turn. So he'll make his attack with his great axe, or two-handed axe, I guess the same thing. Alright, that is definitely going to hit there. So that's 10, that's 12, their defense is 13, and I'm getting plus 3 on the attack roll. So, or sorry, I think I should be getting plus 5, come to think of it. Because I have the focus in those. Yeah, I think that's one thing I forgot to do, is if I have focus in them, I should be getting plus 2. So, anyway. However, we have that all worked out here. So that's still a hit for sure. And no stun points, but he's going to be doing 3d6 plus 3 to the 1 Genlock. So that is going to be 13, subtract 5, which gives us 8 damage. It's the one he hit before, so that one is nearly dead. And it is Loreth's turn. I think I'm going to have to use 3 magic points or mana points to do another heal on Durin to keep him in the fight. So spell check against target number 10, which succeeds. No stun points this time, unfortunately. So I'm down to 8 mana. But I do get to roll 3d6, and he gets that much back. So we've got 9, so 11 back, which puts him back up to 23. So we're definitely keeping him in there. Now, our Genlocks are going to go. So attacking with their battle axes on Loreth, or not Loreth, Durin. So that is a hit. And the second one, I may as well do both attacks at the same time here. So 6, 11, 13. And I'm not using my shield, so that definitely hits as well. 1 stun point, which I'll just move him 2 yards this way. Move himself 2 yards for the skirmish stun. So both of them hit. So the first one is going to be doing plus 3, so 6 total. And the other attack is, ooh, that's bad, thankfully. So that's only going to be doing 1, so he's going to be taking 7 points, which brings him back down to 16. And back to Durin's turn, so he's going to attack. I'm going to do an all-out attack, I think, with him. And 7, 8, and yeah, it should be plus 5 because I did screw that up. I just realized that now. So that is 13, so that will hit. So 3d6 plus 3. Ooh. All right. So that is 16, 19, so 14. So he managed to take out the 1. That one is down. And then we're gonna have Loreth just kind of move back a little bit with his move action. And then I'm going to do just an arcane lance. So what that is it's just a ranged attack. If it hits, it does 1d6 plus 3. But it doesn't cost any mana points. He just uses it through a staff. So we have 6, 10, 12, plus 3, so that brings us up to 15. So that hits the defense. So 1d6 plus 3, hopefully I roll 3 or greater. And okay, so that's a 9, so that's 4 damage on that Genlock. Brings it down to 18. The Genlock's going to go, he's going to attack Durin with all that attack, which if it hits he'll do the extra 1 damage. So it definitely hits, and it's going to be 2d6 plus 4, so 2d6 because I reduce it by 4. So that's 8, so Durin is now at 8 health. But it's Durin's turn to respond, so he's going to attack. With an all-out attack of his own. It's a hit, but not a stunt, unfortunately. But it is a great axe, so 3d6 plus 4. Oh, that fell off there. So that's 10, so 14, so 9. So this Genlock's just about dead. So at this point I'm going to use, Durin's going to do an Arcane Lance, or Arcane Bolt, sorry. So it's going to be the spell, cost 2. Let's bring down to 6 mana. Magic test, target number of 10. Hits, and I get 6 stunt points. So what are we going to do here? So I think what I can actually do is do Imposing Spell. So the effect of the spell is much more dramatic than usual. Until the beginning of your turn, anyone attempting to make a melee attack... Oh, that's against you. Yeah, actually I think what I'm going to do is Fast Casting and make this a mighty spell. So I can cast another spell after this, and this one's going to do an extra d6. Now, the target still gets his... essentially his spell saving roll, although it's a chance to resist basically, so it's an acrobatics check with a dexterity of 1. So that is 13, which just passes actually, so he's only going to be taking normally 1d6 on the save. However, since I used the mighty spell, he's going to be taking 2d6, which unfortunately with his armor rating is going to only be 2 points, so that brings me down to 7. However, I can cast another spell, so I'm actually going to do the same thing again. Arcane Bolt, so that is another 2 points, so I'm down to 4 mana. Now this one I can't stunt off of. Whoops. Whoops, that was a 2. So it succeeds. Now I got to keep track of that 2, because if he fails his acrobatics test to get out of the way, then he takes an extra 2 damage on top of the 2d6. So, see what we get here. That still succeeds though. So, it's going to be 1d6, and that's not enough to do any damage, unfortunately, which kind of sucks. However, moving on, Genlock's turn. He's going to go after Durin, all-out attack. 4, 5, 6, 7... and plus 5, and right now my defense is only 11 because I don't have a shield on. So that's still going to hit for 2d6 plus 4, so 2d6, since I have an armor rating of 4 with Durin, and that is 7. So he is down to 1 hit point before he gets knocked out again. So this has got to be the round that he takes the Genlock out. It's his go, so all-out attack on his own, or of his own, which will hit, and 3d6 plus 3. So 8, whoops, 8, 11, 14, subtract 5 is still 9. The Genlock had 7 hit points left, so he goes down. So there you go. Alright, so that was essentially the combat system, and that's sort of the basic gist of it. There's more advanced things that you can probably get into if you wanted to, in terms of like the actions. At higher levels you have to take like an activate action to use some of your abilities. Like you'll have certain things that you get from your specializations, for example. They usually have you taking on like some sort of stance. For example, you'd have to use activate for that. You can use the prepare action to essentially ready an action if somebody does something to trigger one of your things. So you use basically a major action. You ready a major action, or any action, I guess. So I could do that. So with guard up, there's another minor action you can do where you can add +1 or +2 to your defense. However, you suffer the same amount as a penalty on your attacks. I had messed up the fighters or the warriors attack bonuses, so like I said, he should have +2 for using weapons that he has a focus in. So there was that. There's things like press the attack, which until the beginning of my next turn, if the enemy moves away, I can immediately move up my speed and yards in direct pursuit of it without it costing an action. Yeah, stuff along those lines. So anyway, so there's a little bit more that you could probably go into it, but that is the basic gist of how the combat system works, with the attack rolls, the stunt system, armor ratings reducing damage, defense numbers determining your to hit rolls, having tests to overcome some of the spell effects, things along those lines. So I hope you enjoyed the video, hope you found it informative, and if there's any other bits of information that you would like to know about the Dragon Age role-playing game, let me know in the comments, and I will try to do some videos based on that, because I actually, like I said, I really like this system. I think it's a really fun game, and there's definitely more than you can do to it than just the combat system, but again, I thought I would show how that works out. So anyway, once again, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we will see you next time. Take care.